everyone, welcome to the next episode of Pilot Talks.
Pilot ki baat.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning, Vijay. Nice to see you back again. So this Pilot Talk shows have gone far and wide. It has reached to the all associations of pilots. People really liked it. And a lot of people have told me that last few shows, that one of them we had with Harman Brewers, and the one we had with the Hank Henson, and also with the some of the other like Jenny Drummond also, and also with the Malcolm Goodfellow, they have taught our Indian pilots and airport authorities so much that they really are very happy. And I'm told informally to complete at least 100 episodes of this Pilot ki Baat and Pilot Talks. So let's be prepared for public demand.
Just like Modi has a Man Ki Baat, we have our own Pilot Ki Baat.
Yes.
And why not 100? So we'll make it 200, 300 and many more. And yes, sir, I have seen that our videos are being regularly shared on the AIMPA websites and the pilotladdersafety.com websites and the marinepilots.com website.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the Frank Daigle and also Harman Brewers, they had hosted this Pilot Ki Baat and Pilot Talks on their website. And recently, EMPA, European Maritime Pilot Association, also shared Harman Brewer talks onto their website as well as on LinkedIn page and LinkedIn account. That was really an honor. And this is what I'm trying to say, the quality is so good about discussions and about tapping their minds and knowing more about pilots and pilotage and pilot training. That's why people have said you must go on doing this thing, which is very good. And we should tap in. I mean, there are a lot of talents available in the world who are ready to share the knowledge, and cumulatively we will become a very good knowledge bank. That's the idea that we have.
Definitely, sir. Through this Pilot Ki Baat, Pilot Talks, Pilot Ki Baat show, we had the honor and privilege to speak to so many distinguished panels, including Captain Jenny, Captain Ravi Nija, Captain Malcolm, Mr. Harman Brewers. And today we have a special guest. She's a very happy-go person and she's a well-known personality in maritime industry. She is the president of Nautical Institute. She is Miss Jillian Carson Jackson. She has over 30 years of experience in maritime industry. She is an experienced maritime technical advisor. She is a presenter and chairperson with passion for communications, technologies, education and training and vessel tracking. She is skilled in simulation training, vessel traffic services, where we will be stressing upon today, operations management, emergency management and international shipping. She is an IALA expert for VTS, where you are going to ask her important questions, A2 navigation and E-navigation. She has a passion for diversity and inclusion, including empowering women in maritime industry. She also happens to be the fellow of Royal Institute of Navigation.
Absolutely. I mean, that kind of a CV and a biodata, when I read it, the only one thing I thought, Vijay, that why didn't I read this biodata 10 years back? I mean, sometimes, reading a people's biodata itself is so inspiring. It gives you so many ideas to so many things. I didn't even know, till the time we came into the AIMPA, I didn't even know that IALA Maritime Boys System has courses for the port officials. And she teaches them. I didn't know VTMS or VTS was a certified course, because we don't have any VTMS and VTS in India. We just started one in Kandla and we have one very poorly operational in Calcutta and Hooghly River. But still, we didn't even know about it. I didn't even know about it. So these kind of biodatas to be read, I think every 5 years by mariners, to draw inspiration and draw ideas as how much one can achieve in one career. I mean, when I got in touch with Jillian also was there in our AIMPA website launch. And of course, she was so, spendful with her words, and, she's praised AIMPA's efforts and, in this part of the world so much that it was really heartening to see her support given to us. So let's get her on board, and I'm sure the viewers must be really, really eager to listen to her because she being the top-notch VTS and VTMS expert in the world today.
Yes, sir, definitely. She was part of the AIMPA website launch. I was also one of the viewers, and I was very excited to see her participating in the AIMPA website launch. And I was really keen on getting her on this Pilot Talks show. And I'm really happy and honored, I must say, that she is going to be a part of us 2 episodes, and we'll be asking her many questions. And one of the questions is about the Singapore VTS, basically how they manage the hectic traffic operations services over there. So I'm sure she'll be able to guide me as well as all our viewers, her experience and knowledge pertaining to the VTS and VTMS.
Yeah, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, Jillian, and thank you very much for joining. We welcome you to this show of Pilot Talks, Pilot Ki Baat, and thank you very much for being part of the show. And I know you're a great well-wisher of AIMPA. You were there for a website launch of AIMPA, and you spoke greatly about us, and your video was watched by everyone else in India as well as in the world. So thank you very much for being such a support to us. We need intellectual minds like you to guide us and take us ahead in doing some difference and about the pilots and piloting in India. Anyway, so coming back to our topic when I read the elaborated CV of yours, I'm sure most maritime men will be very envy of you because you have a very elaborated CV and biodata, which is really, really great in as passenger shipping industry. And I'm really proud to have been discussing with you. I have with me Captain Vijay Sharma. And Vijay Sharma is a creator of this show. Why would I say creator? Because he has constructed it. He's relentlessly working for this kind of show, and he's also aspiring pilot. So the knowledge which he wants to share with others is being used by him as well. So he's also a direct beneficiary of this knowledge what the personalities like you share on this show. So Vijay is a co-host, host and co-host both. We can always shift our roles in this. So he does this show, and I'm very happy to rope you in. So just wanted to ask you one simple question. There's always a confusion between the vessel traffic services and vessel traffic management system. I've always been at the crossroads of this. And always think that, okay, I know that VTS is required by the IMO, and IMO regulation requires VTS, and but you being the expert in VTS, VTMS, and IALA Maritime voyage systems and everything else. So we would like to hear from you. To start with the first question, what is the difference between these two, and how they are capacitated? With the difference.
Well, thank you for that. And I would like to note that there are some real issues with the use of different acronyms that we have to describe this concept of vessel traffic services. As you mentioned, the IMO Safety of Life at Sea Convention, Chapter 5, Regulation 12, is titled Vessel Traffic Services, so VTS. That's the term that's used in the supporting resolution as well. The resolution is currently called A85720. This is being updated, but I'm going to touch on that a little bit later as we get in our conversation. But in SOLAS, it is noticed that VTS is implemented where justified by the degree of risk or volume of traffic, and it can be made mandatory within the territorial sea. So in its very nature, the concept that VTS is in Chapter 5, the Safety of Navigation chapter, highlights the importance of VTS to support safe and efficient navigation. And it also protects the environment and adjacent shore areas. And that's some of the text that's right in that SOLAS convention. The use of different terms to describe vessel traffic services or VTS can and have caused confusion. In fact, back in 1997, when IMO approved that resolution that we used, the A85720, they specifically recognized that the use of different VTS procedures can cause confusion to masters and vessels moving from one vessel traffic services area to another. So back in 1997, they were already aware of this issue of concern of lack of consistency in procedures and terminology. Now, I did note that that resolution's been updated. So that resolution came out in 1997. Lots of things have changed since 1997. The new resolution has gone through a number of years of development, and it is currently with the IMO for ideally approval at Assembly this year. So we hope to have an updated resolution on VTS in November 2021, so stand by. But the new resolution still says that the use of differing procedures may cause confusion to shipmasters, and that vessel traffic services should be established and operated in a harmonized manner and in accordance with internationally approved guidelines. So this concept of terminology really does matter. And I'm going to go back in time right now. It's a couple of times I'm probably going to go back in time. But Captain Terry Hughes wrote a paper a number of years ago titled, "When is a VTS not a VTS?" And this highlighted the introduction of all of these different terms, such as VTMIS, VTMIS, VTIS, VTIC, harbor control, traffic, all of these terms that have this connotation of some aspect of VTS as per SOLAS, but we aren't quite sure, are they? So are these identified in the SOLAS Convention as VTS? Are we talking of the same thing? Now, by that I mean, are these terms, VTMS, VTMIS, VTIS, are they actually referring to this concept of the mandatory VTS under the SOLAS Convention, Chapter 5, Regulation 12? And if so, as we've already seen in the resolutions, the ship should expect consistent procedures by trained and qualified personnel from VTS to VTS. And if they are called VTS, if they aren't a VTS, then how would they be called? So if they're not a VTS, the name by which they go, their call sign should clearly indicate that they're not a VTS. IALA actually developed a guideline specifically to deal with the naming policy of VTS. It's guideline 1083. And this is, in a true sense of the SOLAS Convention, looking at what it is a VTS is. So a VTS meets specific criteria, such as being authorized by the competent authority, staffed with qualified personnel, doing all the training programs under the IALA V103 model course framework, being able to maintain a traffic image using data from multiple sensors, being able to interact and respond to developing traffic situations. That's a true VTS. So if that is, in essence, a VTS, the guideline says the naming convention should be the name of the port or the port identified with either a prefix or a suffix of VTS. And that means that if you are in a port that has a VTS, you know it's a VTS, and you understand what you're going to get in the way of a service. And back to the question of when is a VTS not a VTS? This is a real concern. And you've probably read, there's so many incident reports. I'm going to go right to one that's local to me, the Pasha Bulker. So the Pasha Bulker ran aground off of Newcastle Port. And in that report, well worth reading from many, many perspectives. But in that report, you can see the confusion that can arise through this concept of terminology. So the Pasha Bulker ran aground off the port of Newcastle. So it was on Nobby's Beach. The Port of Newcastle uses the acronym VTIC, Vessel Traffic Information Center, with the call sign Newcastle Harbor. Now, they are not a VTS, but they use the term VTIC and they use a call sign Newcastle Harbor. So when the safety investigation was carried out, it was highlighted that there was a clear expectation on the part of the master of the Pasha Bulker, and actually a number of other masters as well that were at anchor that same day, that the port was a VTS and would act accordingly. So they thought that they would have this concept of the VTS service that they would expect. So a number of surveys that went out to the masters of vessels that were at anchor there. I think there were some 50 vessels at anchor at that time. there was a general expectation that the VTIC would provide them with guidance about the weather and tell them the appropriate time to leave the anchorage. In fact, the master of the Pulsar indicated they expected the VTIC to issue the instruction to leave anchorage in gale force winds. Now, we can go into all sorts of other discussions about the role of the master and everything, but that is the expectation because it has this concept of a VTS, but it wasn't. So when is a VTS not a VTS? This is only one example. There's lots of other examples. So what do you do in a port if, according to this risk analysis, remember, go back to the SOLAS convention, you put a VTS in place where the volume of traffic and degree of risk justifies one. So what if you do a risk analysis and you decide volume of traffic or degree of risk does not justify a VTS? What do you do then? That's where a lot of confusion comes, because there's a lot of ports around the world who may not be a VTS in the true sense of the word. They're not authorized. They don't have the qualified personnel working ashore. They may not have all those sensors providing that traffic image, but they still do something. So they still communicate with a vessel. They might provide weather on a set time frame. They might actually have a VHF radio that goes perhaps to a security officer or a port person ashore that can make a link into the services. Not a VTS, but they still do something. They have some sort of communication. So actually, IALA developed a guideline for this too, a guideline 1042 that's called Local Port Services, or LPS. So to go away from this concept of when a VTS isn't a VTS, it would be a local port service. So in a port where there may not be much traffic, or where there might be a lower environmental risk because of the type of traffic that is going in and out of the port, they might still have some communication with shore, but it's not a VTS. So it should not be called a VTS or any acronym linked to that. So that's a bit of a long answer to a short question, but it's a really critical point because it's all about expectations. Shipping is a global industry. Ships go from port to port. They expect level of service. So really, just to summarize, one, VTS, yes, can provide significant benefit to safety of navigation in ports and also in coastal areas. The term VTS reflects that specific aspect of vessel traffic services as identified in SOLAS. And three, to have a VTS, you must meet specific conditions. You have to be able to monitor and interact traffic, have consistent operating procedures, and it must be staffed by trained and qualified VTS personnel. And it's really important, the terms that you use. Language does matter.
If I may interrupt,
yeah, absolutely. Well elaborated answer, Jillian. Thank you very much for that. And, please do send your articles. I would like to read them as to when VTS is not VTS, and, even other one also what you mentioned about yes, I heard, I also read many case studies where the confusion created by, the traffic, services, whether, whether vessel traffic services or otherwise, to monitoring the conditions in the port as well, So whether it's a management of entire port affairs. So this kind of broadcasting services from the port does cause a menace. And we also had one of the accidents in Mumbai port a few years back where there was a sort of blame put on the VTS services as well. So thank you very much for that. I would let Vijay ask you the next question, but it was a very elaborated answer, and we are very happy to get that from you. Thank you so much, Vijay.
Yes. Now, after listening to this difference between VTS and VTMS and VTIS, I have a simple question. For example, Singapore Straits, it's one of the busiest straits in the world with lots of ships transiting. So Singapore is a VTS or it's a VTMS? Because Singapore, I've seen that when you're transiting various sectors, there are times when they will pass on the information about the traffic. And there are times where we, from the sectors, I see the person supervising monitors the traffic and he manages the traffic. So he will be the one to inform you that you have to overtake this vessel, you have to stop, you have to let this vessel pass ahead of you. So Singapore is a VTMS or it's a VTS?
Well, my answer to that is that you should know that because you should be able to find this information very clearly. It should be promulgated so that the mariners traveling through an area will know what services that there are there. Now, I do believe Singapore, they call it VTIS, Vessel Traffic Information System, but they are run as a VTS, and they do have that. But within the current resolution, and we go back to the fact that we're in this cusp right now of moving from the IMO resolution 85720, which came out in 1997, to this new IMO resolution with a number yet to be decided, which we hope will be approved in November 2021. But if we take a look at the existing resolution, in the existing resolution is this concept of 3 services that a VTS can provide. And now that's one of the key differences in the new resolution. But in the existing resolution, there are 3 services a VTS provides: an information service, a traffic organization service, or a navigational assistance service. And it can provide, all VTSs would provide an information service. So no matter where you go, you would always have an information service. Some vessels, some areas of the VTS may provide that traffic organization service that you mentioned, Vijay, and they may also provide a navigational assistance service, which is to help address the concept of when you see an unsafe situation developing, you step in to do something to try and mitigate that, because the VTS is a risk mitigating tool. Now, the new resolution removes the concepts of those 3 services because, in essence, all VTS are looking at the screen, they're monitoring the vessel traffic, they're providing information to support onboard decision making, they're monitoring the implications, and they're stepping in as required to avoid unsafe situations from developing. So that's the new resolution. The old resolution still has these 3 services. And you should be able to go to the ALRS volume 6 and find the information on VTS, go to the websites, find out what type of service they provide. And if you were to go to an Australian website, for example, if you go to the any of the ports in Australia, or even if you go to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority website, plug in that and punch in vessel traffic services, you'll see each of the authorized ports in Australia that have been authorized by the competent authority to be a VTS and the services that they provide, the area they cover, their objectives that they are there to meet, and the services they provide. So that information should be clearly available to all mariners. Now, back to Singapore. So busy straits like Singapore, yes, and there are a number of different types of busy ports. In the port of Singapore, in the Straits of Singapore, and in the various ports, you'd have different types of VTS that would be interfacing. And you have a number of different operators because it's a very busy port. You've got lots of people in the center working. But all VTS require skilled operators. If we go back and look at I'm going to talk a little bit about the skill sets of the VTS personnel. I won't get into that right now, I'll do a little bit more later. But they have to have effective and consistent procedures. They have to use clear and concise and unambiguous communications. With the use of the decision support tools that we have, you can have a strong situational awareness, and you can do that forward planning that then supports your traffic organization. And then you can also have decision support tools that will identify when there might be an unsafe situation developing. And the role of VTS would be stepping in ahead of time to stop an unsafe situation from developing. Within this concept of collision avoidance, the use of message markers is critical. And we do a lot of work in VTS to train on message markers. And I know as mariners as well, when you do the SDCW, the SMCP, the Standard Marine Communication Phrases, a key aspect of those are those 8 message markers. Really, really critical. Question, answer, information, warning. So those message markers are very important to help support this consistent phraseology. So in addition to the SMCP, that consistent phraseology, IALA has actually also developed a guideline for the use of VTS, guideline 1132, which supports this clear and measured manner of communication. In all aspects of VTS, the professional VTS operator should focus on delivering timely and relevant information. And you deliver that at a speech rate of about 120 words per minute, that's what we teach, Or in the case of an emergency, you slow down because you have to get that information clearly across. So they do say in an emergency, on the radio, we should be delivering at about 100 words a minute. Communication is key. VTS operators are trained to be efficient, effective, professional communicators. Information in a timely manner, using word groups, pauses, and the effective use of readback. So just like in our BRM that we have on board vessels, we need to have that communication feedback, closed loop communication. So we know that the role of VTS is key in all sorts of ships and in port areas. With a long established history, for example, the use of VTS first started with shore-based radar and VHF radio back in 1948. So it's not like it's something new. VTS is continuing to evolve. And in busy ports, I think the value of VTS can be even more, it can be enhanced, especially if we focus on that professional relationship and the training and ensuring clear communications.
Thank you, Jillian. That was really a very elaborative explanation, and we are glad that I'm sure nobody else would have done it the way you are explaining it from the expert.
The best part of the thing is, when you invite a lecturer, guide, mentor, professor of a course to the show, hosts have got no chance to speak. This is a lighter note, Jillian. Thank you very much. But I can
warn you that
out.
My answers are a bit long, but there's a lot of information.
True. So I was about to frame a question with that. I know you're a lecturer and you do carry out PTMS courses, and I've also spoken to a couple of not students, but a couple of people who have attended your lectures and your courses, and they have spoken so high about your explanation and explaining your attributes that really it has really. That's why I could feel it now, because we have not spoken on VTMS topic as such, elaborately. So when I was listening now, I felt I felt that I'm in a classroom and you're teaching me the entire gambit of the Oh, very nice. It was a great to listen. Vijay, your thoughts?
Yes, since you talked about the technology and VTS is evolving, so if you would be kind enough to explain how with this advent of technology, since technology is a dynamic process, how do you see the VTS changing its face and utility in the port operations?
Well, that's a really, really good question. And it's so pertinent to the current developments of not only the technology related to VTS, but the integration of technologies in all of our lives and society as a whole. Now we have this development of something called a decision support tool. VTS has used it for many, many years now. I think it's actually making a broader range. We've got enhanced data exchange. We've got developments related to e-navigation, the maritime services, the S100 standards. And right now the upcoming CCOM standard, or the Maritime Communication Exchange standard that IEC has out for public consultation. So there's a lot happening right now. So it's a very pertinent question. In fact, in the VTS environment specifically, this work at IALA, we've been starting to look at what is the future of VTS? And IALA has been working on this concept of a living document to highlight some of the changes and developments that are influencing the future of VTS. In that concept of transitioning to the future of VTS, there are lots of developments that have been identified, things like the digital data communications, the long-range sensing technologies that are developing, the developments in marine spatial planning and how the water space is actually being used, the different users of that water space, machine learning, and so much more. So we're sort of seeing a bit of a convergence of technology, not just in VTS, but in the entire maritime ecosystem that's now reaching beyond. We've got the cargo chain, supply chain, and the security of supply chain. We're very aware of that, especially during COVID. So we do know that the only constant is change, and VTS has changed so much over the years. I'm going to go back in time and tell you a little bit of a story about my first interactions with VTS as a ship's officer. So just a few years ago, I won't say how long, but I remember being really annoyed by the VTS operator. They were really upset with me because I missed a calling in point, and it was on an open VHF channel, and I just felt like I was being berated by the VTS operator. But I do remember very clearly the scenario, and probably all of us officers on a ship have been at this at one time. But I was on a Coast Guard vessel, and Canadian Coast Guard vessel. We'd spent the last few weeks out on Georgia's Bank. It was really nasty weather. We were doing search and rescue. We'd had a really difficult few weeks. We managed, after a number of tries, to get a broken down fishing vessel in tow, and we were going into Halifax Harbor in Nova Scotia. I was on watch, and I had done my initial call to VTS, but then I switched my radio over to the other frequency to talk to the other mate who was on the afterdeck, shortening the tow and getting ready to bring the vessel into port. So I was busy with them, and I missed a reporting point. That's terrible in VTS. You never do that, right? So the other radio was still on the VTS frequency. I heard them call up, but I was busy, so I didn't answer immediately. And when I did call in, that's when I got my talking down to. But I also realized, when I know more about VTS, is that my delay in responding actually affected their ability to organize traffic at a really critical point as we were going into the harbor. So it was not, those calling points are there for a reason, and I didn't really understand VTS at the time because I was a mate, I was on a ship, and what I was doing was much more important, of course. But the VTS is concerned with the whole waterway, not just one ship. And my one ship was part of a whole pile of ships that they were trying to organize in and out of the harbor. And by my delaying that call, it had like a flow-on effect. So it's really important, just like we understand in breach resource management, that each member of the team has something to offer, and we need to have confidence in and be aware of their role. VTS is another team member in the safe operations support. So we need to be able to work effectively together. One of the things I learned when I became and started working with VTS is that role. Now back to technology, because this actually does go back to technology. The availability of that enhanced information that VTS has. VTS is sensor-rich, data-rich environment. We have so much information being provided to us. Metadata, hydrodata, the radar, the AIS, CCTV, infrared cameras, port operations, the status of the berths, the availability of pilots. There's so much information in the VTS that if on the ship side and the pilots, they don't use those resources, if they're not aware of that resource, then they're actually selling themselves short. There's so much that they can do. Now, we know the pilot, the master are concerned with their vessel and their domain. I call it like the bubble suit around the ship. But the VTS operator is concerned about the domain of every single ship in the water, and also all the other waterway aspects, the issues around that waterway. So working together is really a good, strong synergy that you can get with the technology. Now we're getting more accurate and more consistent decision-making. Those decision-making tools are getting more accurate, providing better information. And as we see continued developments in autonomy and autonomous systems, I really believe that the role of VTS will continue to evolve and be enhanced. And that data, that information, is really critical to the pilot and to the master of the vessel.
Thank you so much, Jillian, for such a beautiful explanation. And yes, technology, we have seen that on ships, the technology has evolved a lot from, for example, paper charts to now touchscreen like this nowadays we see. And yes, I'm sure in VTMS and VTS, since shore-based, they have the access to technology even a lot more than what we do on ships. So thank you so much. And Captain Gajanan, sir?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely great conversation. You know, I think we have already short the time off for the first show, so I think, you know, we will end it here. But the very importantly, I would like to, you know, do the kind of a closing remark. And you really touched upon a very important topics of, you know, the functions of VTS as, you know, as information organization of traffic and, you know, the navigational kind of assistance. I always have, I was traveling back to when I was captain in 2000 and 2005, 5 years. So I was going back to that, and so much of information chaos happens on VHF. So much of organizing, which doesn't happen by the VTS center. And so much of safety of navigation is jeopardized, without the VTS. It's enormous. And in our time, of course, I was only thinking, those days, the human brain of a pilot, of a master, can only comprehend, certain kind of information. Even two people talking at one time, we can't comprehend. We have to tell one man, okay, shut down, or shut up. Let one man talk first. So when the communication happening on 2-3 VHF sets on bridge, continuously talking about something or the other, very difficult to comprehend the information. So the role of VTS is really going to be enhanced more. And with the mass, coming up, the technology is advancing at a speed that nobody is able to comprehend. It is that fast. Our generation, the next generation also is not able to cope up with the technology which is coming up with machine learning and AI and sensors being used. Maritime is the port which is being tried for the mass now. It's a different topic altogether. We'll touch upon it when we come back, Jillian. Thank you very much for your presence today here and sharing that kind of knowledge. One important thing, and we should take this from this show as well, the clear, concise, and unambiguous communication is what is the key, and we should take this on the show as well. So we ask concise questions, get precise answers, and leave somebody with no ambiguous information. So with that, thank you, Jillian. Vijay, you can close and then.
Yes, thank you, Captain Sir, and thank you, Jillian. Like Captain mentioned, communication is key. 3 words, but very important words. Communication is key, whether be it on board and ashore. Communication is key. And thank you so much for enlightening us and for being a part of the show. Hopefully, we'll see you next time for the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you to you. Thank you, viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, viewers, for watching this episode, and stay tuned for the next episode, wherein we will get Ms. Jillian Carson back to complete a few more questions. Unfortunately, we could not complete due to the time constraint. So thank you so much. Stay tuned. Till then, see you.